Hi, this is Theo from PocketBlocks.com. Today I'm going to show you a little demonstration on how I created this sketch with pen, ink, and water-soluble graphite. Using water-soluble graphite is a great way to practice your tonal values, and it's also quite affordable because graphite is not very expensive and you can have a lot of fun with it. So this is a sketch that I sketched in 2012 using pen and ink, and then I applied water-soluble graphite over it. This is another sketch with water-soluble graphite applied over it. In addition to just pen and ink, I also use black ink to mark out all these areas here to give that extra contrast. So now I'm going to show you the different tools you need. Water-soluble graphite comes in many different forms. You can see them in pencils like this. This is made by the brand Derwent. This is their sketching pencil, which happens to be water soluble. So there is HB, 4B, and 8B. There is another brand called Cretacolor. They also have water soluble pencils. This is Graphite Aquarelle. This is 4B. So there are many other brands out there with water soluble graphite pencils. This is a graphite stick that is water soluble. This is made by the company ArtGraf. So this is good because you can cover a large area very quickly. And this is also made by ArtGraf. This is a tin of water soluble graphite. This is quite hard, so you need to apply water to dissolve it before you can use it. I'm going to demonstrate the pencils and this two later on. Let me start with the pencils first. I'm going to shade these three boxes with HB, 4B, and 8B respectively. Let me start with the HB first. I'm just going to fill up the whole box. By the way, I'm using watercolor paper. This is cold pressed watercolor paper. HB is a bit light on the value scale. Next, I want to use 4B. 4B is a bit softer and also slightly darker. You can see a lot of the white of the paper showing through because this cold press paper is slightly rough. And this is 8B. See here, it's dark wash. This is even softer, and this is going to be quite dark later on when you apply the color. So for this kind of pencils, usually I would use a water brush like this because it's very convenient. The water is just behind the brush tip, and once you press a bit, you get the water to come out. So I'm just going to overlay the water onto the pen and ink lines so that you can see how transparent the graphite is or is not. So this is HB. You'll still see some graphite on the paper that are not fully dissolved, so you might have to go over it a few times in order to dissolve it completely. And this is 4B. 4B is slightly darker. 8B is really very dark. The thing to note about 8B is once you dissolve the graphite is probably going to cover the lines below, and you are not going to see the pen and ink lines after you dissolve the graphite. So these are tones made with pencils. Let's move on to this ArtGraf water-soluble graphite. They call it watercolor graphite. I'm going to be using a normal brush instead, this brush, and I'm going to put some water onto the pen like this, and then use my palette to mix the graphite properly. The reason why I want to do this is because I want to achieve an even tone, a flat wash. With this particular graphite, it's a bit difficult to achieve flat wash. I'm going to show it to you later on. So usually when I do a pen and ink sketch and use water-soluble graphite, I would apply graphite in a few layers. So I would usually start with the lightest layer first. Let me put some, oh, this is still a bit too dark. So I'll apply a lighter area first over all the places where they are supposed to be darker. So now you can see some areas they are a bit more dense and some areas they are less dense, and this is not a completely even flat wash. So this area is a bit darker, you can see some particles, so the graphite actually moves around. So it's very difficult to achieve a flat wash with this particular brand. I'm going to wait for this to dry and apply another layer over these two boxes. This is almost dry, so I'm going to apply the next layer of graphite. And wait for this to dry again before I make this last box darker. And now for the last wash. This is going to be very dark and you won't be able to see the pen lines after you apply it. Let me move on to this sketch here. This is a sketch of my clip. So I'm just going to color this two with ArtGraf, water-soluble graphite, and also the water-soluble pencils. Let me start with the pencils first. I'm going to be using HB for, I would say, this side. Let me put my reference here. I think this side is a bit lighter, so this will be HB. There are some highlights here. Then I will use 4B for the darker areas. And then this is going to be 8B here. This is 4B. And finally 8B for this area here, which is almost black. One thing to note about graphite is you will not get 100% black. This is not going to be as black compared to black ink. Alright, now I can go in with my water brush. So I'm just going to dissolve this. Make sure you don't use too much water, if not it's going to be a bit messy and the wash is going to be a bit untidy. And that is also one disadvantage of the water-soluble pencil, because it's very difficult to get a flat wash. So even after I tried to dissolve the graphite, you can still see some graphite texture not being dissolved, and this is the really darkest part here. And the shadow, let me wash my brush. The clip is not totally white as well. Let me put some shadow for the clip. Alright, so this is how the clip looks like with water-soluble graphite pencils. Now I want to use ArtGraf for this sketch here. Same thing here, I will apply a wash over all the areas that are going to be dark. Let me add a bit more water to make this a bit lighter first. This is a bit easier to get a flat wash because I have already prepared the mixture here. So it's much easier than dissolving the pencil on the paper. Alright, so I'm going to wait for this to dry and apply another layer of wash to this area here, this triangle here, and also the shadow areas. Let me add in the next layer of wash. Sometimes I would use the graphite straight from the pen like this. And just underline the shadow areas to give it a bit more contrast. Add a bit of water. If the graphite is difficult to dissolve, you do have to add some more water to it. And this area as well. And the shadow here. The difference between these two sketchers is not very significant. Personally, for me, I prefer to use water-soluble graphite in pen forms like this because it's easier to dissolve and you can cover a larger area much quicker. Now, if you were to use graphite pencils, you have to use the pencil over the paper and then dissolve the pencil. But if you are using something like this, you can actually reuse the cap like this. This is something that I do. I just put the graphite here to mix it properly first before I apply it onto the paper, and you can mix a huge amount of wash here and apply it onto the paper. Let me show you a few more sketches that I have drawn with water-soluble graphite. This is a sketch, pen and ink with water-soluble graphite. You can see that the dark tones are not very dark. If I were to use really dark graphite, then it's going to cover over the pen and ink lines. So that's something that I do not want. So overall, if you look at it, the tonal values, the difference, the contrast is not very strong when it comes to the mid-tones and the dark tones. However, for the light tones and the middle tone, the contrast is quite good. This is probably colored with ArtGraf, so you can see all these textures. Water-soluble graphite has a textural look that is very nice, very beautiful. However, it is also very unpredictable, so be careful when you're using graphite. Let's take a look at this area here. This area here is very dark. I actually have pen lines beneath the graphite, but I cannot tell where the lines are right now because the graphite has covered over the pen and ink line. So when you use it in concentration, it's going to be opaque. Same thing for this area here. Can you see the pen lines here? There are some pen lines here. I think it goes all the way up and it's now covered by this black area here. Look at all this granulation from the graphite. I enjoy using graphite because I think this is great practice for tonal values. Let me show you another sketch. This is actually the one that I showed you earlier. I want to point out the differences between black ink and graphite. Can you see the difference between the values? So graphite is not able to go to this level of darkness. So this is black ink, which is still much darker compared to graphite. So you might want to use a combination of graphite with ink to give more variations to your sketch. So in this case, I use ink because I needed the extra contrast. If I just use graphite, then it's going to appear a bit muddy because the contrast between the mid values and the dark values is not that clear. You can see this area here. Also, if I use the graphite in concentration, I'm going to lose the ink lines beneath it. So that's why I use black ink here. For this particular sketch, for the water-soluble graphite here, I actually used a brand from Durban called Graphitone. Graphitone, I do not have it with me right now, but Graphitone is actually a pencil that is shaped like this, obviously, but the whole thing is just made of water-soluble graphite, so you can actually draw with it and paint with it. There's no wood in that Graphitone pencil. So I use it to dissolve. I mix it properly first onto a palette and then apply it onto the wash like this. That's why I can get very flat washes like this. When I look back at this sketch from 2012, I feel like I should add in some ink wash, especially to the trees, because trees are usually quite dark when you look at them from afar, and they are quite close to black almost, especially in the shadow area. So for this particular sketch, I think I probably could have improved it by adding really dark darks here in this area, and this area here, and also areas here, especially in the shadow side, which should be close to black in a water-soluble graphite sketch like this. There are so many water-soluble graphite products out there. The main difference is the look because of the way the graphite is grounded. So for example, the graphite pencils, when you use it on paper, when you try to dissolve it with the brush, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to dissolve depending on the brand, also on the paper. and you might still see the graphite in pencil form. So that's something to take note of when you're using water-soluble graphite pencils. Now for ArtGraf water-soluble graphite in the pen form, these are very nice. They dissolve very easily, but they are, the particles are a bit bigger, so they are more textural. So if you want the more textural look, I think this is a great product. And also this ArtGraf water-soluble graphite stick is very good as well. They will give you a very textural look. But I think they are not very suitable for pen and ink sketches because when they get very dark, they will just cover over your lines. Now the other product that I mentioned earlier, the Graphite Tone, that is a nice product because the graphite is grounded into very fine particles, and usually I would use them like this. I would just dab my water brush onto the graphite tone and dissolve it and mix a wash and then apply it over my watercolor paper. I find that it's much easier to create a flat wash with graphite tone than with ArtGraf or the pencils. That's all for my little demonstration today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section just right below this video. I will also post some links to all the sketches and the reviews of all these products so that you can check out where you can buy them. Also look at the scans at higher resolution. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so for more sketching tips, tutorials, art product reviews. Bye!